Hi to all the spooks out there. I'm Ange.
And I'm Amanda.
And this is Spine Chilling Chats.
Hello.
If this is your first time joining us, welcome. We're so glad that you're here. If this isn't your first time joining us, welcome back. We're glad you came back.
Yes, so glad. You guys, we need a little bit more friends than just us two
Just
and Heather.
us. We're just us
Yes.
and Heather occasionally. We hope you all had a safe and happy and fun Halloween.
Yes, I know I did.
And now we're looking forward to the holidays coming up. And so because of that, I strayed from our usual serial killer birth month and thought it would be fun to do an episode about family.
Oh.
And no one does family quite like cults.
Oh. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just like when you're hanging out with your family at the holidays, you're probably going to need a tall glass of wine after this one. So I do want to give a little trigger warning. There will be discussion of physical, sexual, psychological abuse, torture, and murder, some of which will be of children. So
I hate those ones.
Yeah.
But they got to be covered. You know, knowledge is power.
So please take care when you're listening. Also, there is a ton of French in this episode. I do not speak French.
You and your countries.
Well, this isn't in France. It's French Canada.
Oh, French Canadian. Okay.
Yeah. And I will most undoubtedly be butchering all of the names. So I apologize in advance.
But you guys should be used to that by now.
Yeah. It's us.
Yeah.
So let's get to it. So, Roch Theriault is a French Canadian who was born on May 16th, 1947 in the Saguenay Valley of Quebec. His mother, Hyacinth, and father, Pierrette, moved Roch and his 6 siblings when he was the age of 6. They moved him and the family to Thetford Mines, which is a city in Quebec that has the nickname the asbestos capital of Canada.
Oh, because that's real healthy.
Yeah, which isn't good for anybody.
No.
So in the 20th century, Thetford Mines was one of the world's largest asbestos producing regions, having 7 mines operating in the area, employing 4,000 workers. For our younger listeners, asbestos is a naturally occurring fibrous mineral that is found in rock and soil. Back in the day, it was used in building materials, automobile parts, heat-resistant fabrics.
Flooring.
Yep, they used it for everything. But when it's inhaled, it can cause serious health issues like lung cancer. You'll see the commercials about mesothelioma. That's from asbestos.
That's just cool to say, though.
Yeah, mesothelioma.
Mesothelioma.
And asbestosis.
And can cause death from
Yes.
all those things.
Yes.
Obviously.
My parents actually have asbestos wrapping on their pipes in the basement. And when my dad bought the house, he had to go down and wrap them, cover them. So we wouldn't, have it just.
But I thought as long as it wasn't scraped open, cut open, it wasn't dangerous. As long as it stayed intact.
Yeah, but who knows?
Something could have popped
open.
Okay.
So he wrapped them all with, I think, aluminum foil or something like that.
Hey, whatever works.
Yeah, and so that's a thing. Anywho, in 1949 and 1975, the asbestos miners in Asbestos, the town, there's actually a town named Asbestos, and in Thetford Mines, began strikes with each lasting almost 5 months. They were the most violent labor conflicts in the history of Quebec. In 2012, the city's last mine did close. So that's where he grew up. So Roch,
which kind of explains a lot, I'm sure, going into this, where he was raised in Asbestos City, because can't have good people coming out of that place.
Oh my gosh, I can imagine that they must all just be
I don't
Sick.
even know how a town is still even there named that with all that shit.
I don't know.
How it didn't go extinct. Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Ghost town.
Be a ghost town. So Roch, as a child, was thought of as being very intelligent, but the local school only went up to grade 7. So none of the Theriault children went any further in their education, including Roch. Roch later described his parents as being abusive, particularly his father. Hyacinth denied ever abusing him, and no evidence was ever found that she had. Hyacinth was a laborer, very religious, as most of them are, like serial killer parents.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of them come from very strict religious backgrounds.
Yeah, I was going to say they're not very nice to their children.
Yeah.
And they're religious, and they always think
Yeah,
that.
sometimes religion, I'm not saying religion is bad. I'm just
Nope, don't come after us.
I'm just saying
pointing out what we have
being overly religious sometimes
pushes
them into an area that is not healthy.
Yes. And this is just the stuff that we researched.
Yeah.
It's not like we're scientists.
This
is
is
the stuff
this
we
is our
personally researched and our personal opinions. So
Yeah.
you guys can think whatever you want to think as well.
So his mother was a laborer, very religious, and a member of the Union of Electors, also known as the White Berets, because of their mission uniform.
Because the White Berets?
White Berets.
Okay.
Because of the strict religious upbringing of going to mass and being forced by his father to go door to door with the White Beret literature, he developed a hatred of Catholicism and just organized religion in general. Although as a younger child, his life was pretty normal and uneventful, as he grew older, he found that complaining about his childhood got him sympathy from others.
And most of the time that we've researched, that's how they're pretty normal. Their childhoods are pretty normal. And then they turn out to be fucking serial killers.
Yeah. He also liked to speak on topics that gave the illusion of intelligence. He reveled in the attention it brought. After dropping out of school in the 7th grade, he began to focus his attention on learning the Old Testament of the Bible, which that's the scary testament. Like, they don't treat women very kindly. It's very, fire and hell and death and destruction.
Yep.
So he became obsessed with learning about that. Roch thought the end of the world was near and was caused by the war between good and evil. He believed an apocalypse would ensue in 1979. In his teenage years, he displayed signs of aggression, including violent outbursts at friends and family members. It was also around this time that he developed a bad drinking habit, which only got worse over the course of his life. So he did get married to Frances Grimier, who lived in the next town over on November 11th, 1967.
Oh.
He was 20 years old then.
November 11th is like the Marine Corps birthday or Veterans Day or something.
Yeah, Veterans Day.
Yeah.
They then moved to Montreal and had 2 sons, Roch Sullivan, who was born in January of 1969, and Francois, who was born in April of 1971. Roch developed some severe ulcers, which had to be fixed via surgery, but he later developed complications from the surgery. He was constantly in pain, which manifested in him being irritable. And we know how boys are when they don't feel good.
Oh, they're dying every single time they have a sneeze.
This in turn caused him to become obsessed with medicine, learning all about human anatomy. He and his family moved back to Thetford Mines, where he started to develop woodworking skills. He used the sales of his amateur wood sculptures as an excuse to go out of Thetford Mines in Quebec City on the weekends. He also used that to help after he acquired a taste for sex and sexuality. So as an opportunity to cheat on his wife. That then caused tension with his wife and his in-laws as he used those weekend away to carry on trysts with other women he met in Quebec City. He became involved in municipal politics and joined Le Club Aramis, which is the French version of the Shriners.
Did I tell you about Ezra's tattoo?
Possibly.
His turtle and frog?
Yes.
It's a Shriners fucking tattoo. I don't know what he was thinking.
Well, now you gotta tell them about it.
Okay, so my son, let me see if I can, I'm sure I have a picture. I'll find it and I'll show you guys. But he thought that there was a cool tattoo to get, and it was a turtle. And on the turtle is a frog wearing a Shriner's hat. And he just thought it was the coolest thing ever until I told him what it was. But now it's stuck on his body forever.
Kids.
Gotta love them. So yeah, that's my my kid's tattoo.
Yep. Forever. Unless he gets it.
He likes it though. And you know, that's what I said. As long as you like it, that's all that matters. Nobody your age really knows what that means, right?
Yeah.
You know, so like just go with it.
He just thought it was a funny hat.
Yeah, he just thought it was a funny hat. Just thought it was the coolest thing ever.
Silly frog.
Yep.
He used his position as a personal platform for a parody of Catholicism. Eventually, with him not really working much, his finances began to cause trouble, especially when the local credit union repossessed his home.
Oh.
His wife, Francine, had enough and filed for divorce in November of 1974, which I'm sure after all of the crap that's about to go down, she's so thankful.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like,
I found a picture. Can you guys see it?
No.
Hold on.
No. There.
That's the tattoo. I mean, it's cute. But come on, guys. That's why you don't get tattoos when you turn 18.
I got a tattoo when I was 18.
So did I.
But I got a shooting star, which who's going to outgrow a shooting star?
I got a sun, a moon, and a star, and it was a tramp stamp. Yeah.
That was my second.
You had a tramp stamp?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
What is it?
It's a star, and then it's got like swirlies coming out of it.
Oh.
My first 3 tattoos were all stars because I was like, those are safe.
Those
like,
are safe. And
like,
mine is a sun, a moon, and a star. So like it's the sun, then half a moon, and a star together in a circle. But again, that's why you don't get tattoos when you're 18. I don't regret what I got. I regret where I got it.
I don't care.
You know what I mean? Clearly, I don't care about tattoos. I love them. They're my favorites,
I got
but
not as many as her, but I got some.
Yeah.
And more where you can't see.
Yeah, we don't show those to strangers. Sorry, guys.
I'm not taking off my shirt right now.
Later.
That's for if we get Patreon.
I mean, I'm not opposed to that.
Okay, so she divorced him. Good for her. She dodged a bullet there. In February of 1975, Roch worked as a cabinet maker and carpenter. He met his future second wife, Giselle Lafrance, while he was selling his hand-carved mugs at a winter carnival in Quebec.
He made mugs?
He
like he made them?
Wooden. He's a woodworker, so he carved wooden mugs.
And sold them at a fair.
And sold them at a carnival in Quebec.
It's the same thing.
No, it's not.
What's the difference between a fair and a carnival?
I don't know, but I'm sure there's a difference. Roch then started shacking up with Giselle. Although he was having sex with Giselle on a regular basis, he made a bed in the back of his truck to appear as though he wasn't having sex out of wedlock.
Oh my God.
From late 1976 to early 1977, Roch was ill and squatted in an abandoned house. It was around this time that Roch Theriault discovered the Seventh-day Adventist Church, which that's my background. I grew up Seventh-day Adventist, so I resonate with this a lot. Some of the stuff that he starts doing, but on a less creepy scale.
So the difference between a fair and a carnival is their purpose and focus. Fairs tend to be more educational or cultural and open focus on specific themes or topics.
And carnivals
are primarily focused on entertainment and fun.
Yeah, like you have the carnies, the
rides, games, foods,
bearded women, the strongman.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
So yeah, I guess there is a difference. You win this one.
I win all of them. The Adventists, ministered by Pierre Zita, met in the local motel room every Saturday. Roch was their most devoted follower. He began following Adventist nutritional strictures and quit drinking. In fact, his enthusiasm for God's work began to unsettle the other Adventists, and his boastfulness irritated those who knew of his limited education. Roch became fascinated with the Old Testament still, with its strict codes of masculine authority. He was also fascinated with Apocalypse, with its message of violent retribution for sin in the end times and the division of the human race into the elect and the reprobate.
So even though he's Seventh-day Adventist, he's still
cuckoo.
Yeah.
For Cocoa Puffs.
Yep.
To make money, Roch went door to door selling Seventh-day Adventist literature. He did pretty well at this, so Zita started giving him different workshops on quitting smoking for him to run, so he was in charge of them. He really excelled at this, and by 1977, he had gained himself a number of followers, including Solange Bolliard, who was 21, Chantal Labrie, who was 19, Francine Laflamme, who was 18, Nicole Raoul, who was 20, Maurice, who was 18, Jose Pelletier, who was 20, Jacques Fissette, who was in his mid-20s, Claude Oliette, who was 24, Jacques Gagier, who was 24, and his wife, that one is Maurice. The first one is Maris. They're really similar. It's just one is with an I and the other is with a Y, but they are pronounced differently because I did Google how to pronounce
them.
Yeah. So the first one was Maris or Maris, who was 18, and then Jacques' wife, Maurice, is 23, and their 6-month-old baby girl. All of these young people, plus Roch, started just hanging out at Giselle's apartment. Most of the girls still lived at home with their parents, but the whole group would often spend the weekends at Giselle's, sleeping on the couch, floor, really just wherever there was space. Roch encouraged them all to drop out of college since Christ was coming soon, and learning skills to survive in a world that was already doomed was pointless. They started referring to Roch and Giselle as Mammy and Pappy.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
That's weird.
That is weird. Giselle, especially since they're not that much older than these people.
Well, and just Mammy and Pappy, like, that's
weird.
That's like 1920s, 1910s, 1930s type of stuff. Not 60s and 70s.
Well, maybe it's different in Canada. Like, I don't know. It's a different...
Yeah. That very well maybe.
Giselle would become jealous of the attention some of the other girls were paying to Roch, but since he had expressed interest in becoming a priest and had committed to total sobriety, she started to regard this as being absurd, even if she knew it wouldn't take much for him to seduce any of them. Like, he could have any girl he wanted.
Okay, have you seen a picture of this dude?
I have. He is not.
I was going to say, is he attractive?
No. Not to my standards.
I hate when people think that they're attractive and they're like, oh, everybody just wants me, or oh, I could seduce them, or oh, this and that, and they're not.
Yeah.
Like, just stop. You're not cute.
You're not. You're not hot. Did you guys ever do the Hot or Not website
No.
back in the day? Oh, that was like, man, it was early 2000s. And you would post a picture on this website and other people would log in and they would like mark if you were hot or not. Like they would grade you.
And you did it?
Oh yeah.
And were you hot?
No, of course not. I was probably like a 6.
Hey, that's still on the upside.
Oh, well.
I didn't even know there was a website like that.
I wonder if it's still up. Hotornot.com.
You got to sign up. Oh, it says the date. No information is available for this page.
Yeah, it's probably closed down.
It's purchased by Badoo, which is owned by Bumble. The app is currently rebranded as Chat and Date. So It's a dating website now.
So his Seventh-day Adventist ministers began to worry that his group of discontented youth were more attracted to Roch himself than they were to the church. So he and his followers attended an Adventist retreat on Lake Rossau, something like that.
I would say it.
Which is in the woods of Muskoka, Ontario in 1977. He met Gabrielle Lavallée, who was from Quebec, and Yolande Guinevere, who was from France, at the retreat. They then joined Roch's group of misfits. The natural scenery really resonated with Roch. While he was hiking alone, he claimed to have a vision. And in this vision, the sky was lit up with a white radiance, and the voice of God told him that the outcropping on which Roch was about to kneel was a holy place. This was the first incident of what would become the ruling element in the lives of those people who had decided to follow Roch.
They all have visions. Yeah. Somebody tells them to do it. They're never guilty. Somebody evil's done it. They had a vision to do it. Yeah. There was demons telling them. They saw people.
God spoke to them.
Right. Like, it's never their own fault.
No. So Roch and his faithful 8 followers, faithful 8, traveled from Thetford Mines to Santa Maria, which is south of Quebec City. With his growing reputation as a healer, they opened the Healthy Living Clinic, which was an alternative medicine venue where you could buy organic food, holistic literature to help with relieving any ailment. Roch had them all wear a uniform of ankle-length pullover tunic, green for women and beige for the men, and Roch himself wore a dark brown robe of similar cut. So he had to stand apart.
Of course, because he's the healer.
Yes.
He's the leader. He saw the vision. Nobody else.
Yeah. He's the bee's knees.
He's special.
He was making pretty good money with his new venture, and he was gaining more followers. Several of the clinic's customers volunteered their time or gave financial donations. Leo Mark Focher, I wanted to say Fokker, but I don't know if that's correct, but that's how I would pronounce it looking at it.
Where's it at?
Leo Mark
Fokker. That's how I would say it.
That's how. Was one of these customers who sold all of his worldly possessions to fund the clinic. He moved his wife and child in with Roch and his gang. In September of 1977, Jacques Yer and Maurice Grenier did likewise, and Jacques eventually became Roch's right-hand man. Maris and José Pelletier, these French names, rejoined the group. Also in September, the parents of teenager Chantal Libri, who were concerned that she failed to enroll in college after moving into Roch's household, insisted that she take a psychological test to make sure she was of sound mind.
That's actually a good idea.
Yeah, because I understand that cult leaders are very manipulative. They're very charismatic.
Mm-hmm.
They're good at finding what you need, what you're missing, and offering that to you. So
promising.
Yeah, so something inside of her, she must have felt was missing, and he was fulfilling that for her. So yeah, I think a psychological test would have been beneficial. But unfortunately, the psychologist reported that she was in good mental health. So
they lose anyway.
So she stays with him. In the fall, Roch claimed to be receiving visions of an impending apocalypse. He instructed his followers to contact their families and threatened to sever all ties if they wouldn't accept his prediction of the impending apocalypse. Yeah.
He would what now?
He
sever all ties?
Yeah, he made them threaten their families that they would sever all ties with them if they didn't accept his prediction of the impending apocalypse. The practice of group confession was intensified. In November, he announced a revelation about moving to Gaspesi. All the women, except for Maurice Grenier, who hated being with the commune, all started competing for Roch's attention. So, but she also was married to Jacques, so she wasn't interested in any other guys anyways.
Good for her.
Yeah. So Giselle wasn't about to let one of these other girls, these hussies, move in on her man. So she took initiative and proposed to Roch herself. A week later, he agreed, and they were married on January 8th, 1978, at an Adventist church in Montreal. They did not have a honeymoon. The group all piled back into the van for the 5-hour drive home, with Roch flirting with the other girls all the way home.
Oh, what an ass.
Giselle cried on a mattress in the back, increasingly convinced that it had all been a way to cement his relationship with the Adventists with a display of sincerity, since the church had become leery of Roch and all of his followers. So she thought that him marrying her was just him trying to be like, oh, me and my wife. See, I'm not having all this group hanky-panky going on. It's just me and my wife. Which doesn't turn out to be true later on.
Right.
The Adventists weren't convinced. Pierre Zita tried talking to the parents of some of the girls and also tried to convince Giselle to leave Roch. But Roch's claws were already sunk too far into them. Like, they weren't going anywhere. Police even came at the request of some of the girls' families, but the girls refused to speak at all. Roch was their elected face of the group for the outside world. Local businessmen started walking into the police station with complaints about Roch not paying outstanding bills, but local police's hands were tied. Like, they would have to take it up in like a civil court type thing. Geraldine Gagne? I don't know.
That's how I would say it.
Geraldine Auclair, I'll skip the middle name, came to the Healthy Living Clinic in March of 1978. She had been receiving treatment for leukemia in Quebec City, and things seemed to be going well there. Like, she was feeling better. It was starting to improve. But her husband found Roch. Roch convinced her husband to let him see Geraldine at the hospital, where he had a loud argument with the doctors over Geraldine's treatment, especially about the amount of drugs they were giving her. Roch, at that point, convinced her husband to check the 38-year-old Geraldine out of the hospital and into the Healthy Living Clinic. where her own father wasn't even allowed to visit. Unfortunately, all Roch's treatment for leukemia was grape juice and making her eat organic foods. So Geraldine Auclair died in the clinic, but Roch told his followers that he had gone to her room and kissed her. She then awakened from death.
Oh, of course.
But that in the end, and this is a quote, "You know, when God wants people, he takes them." It was Geraldine's time.
So nobody really knew if she came back or not. He's making all this up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Back then, and they still believed him.
Yeah. Around the same time, the parents of 19-year-old Gabrielle Nadeau placed her under the care of the clinic for treatment of her multiple sclerosis after meeting Roch at an anti-smoking workshop. In April of 1978, the Seventh-day Adventist Church voted to expel Roch under Zita's initiative. Roch didn't care, though, and he planned to take his power up another notch within his group by marrying his followers together, even though he legally lacked the authority to do so. Also, no one in his group had actually expressed any interest in getting married, especially with who Roch paired them up with. Claude Olliet was paired with Solange Bolliard, and Jacques Fissette with Nicole Raoul. Solange actually invited her parents to the ceremony. Their priest advised them to attend the ceremony, if only to let Solange see that they still loved her. So they're trying to be supportive parents, letting her know that, they're there for her. What else can you really do?
Right. Even if you don't agree with it, if you start an argument or you tell them that, it's just going to push them further away.
Yeah. So they later stated that the wedding ceremony was not what they had expected, to say the least. Roch's rambling speech stressed the women's role of subservience to the man. So very Old Testament, still saying, the women are supposed to serve their men. They are not supposed to be speaking unless spoken to, that kind of thing. The men are their masters, basically. That spring, Roch's wife, Giselle, became pregnant but felt alone and rejected by Roch. He wasn't giving her the attention she thought he should. She gave him an ultimatum. Either he needed to disband the commune and tell everybody to go home, find somewhere else to live, they ain't living with me, or she would move back home with her father. So Roch responded to her demands by hitting her in the mouth and forbidding her to leave the room for 2 days.
And she was pregnant?
The
fuck?
Yeah, this is nothing. This is nothing.
Oh my God, I'm stressed out already.
Yeah. In June of 1978, the Healthy Living Clinic members would wear homemade, unsewn tunics with no undergarments, which honestly I could get behind. Like, walking around in a comfy robe with nothing on underneath, that sounds wonderful to me. So
yeah,
I'm for that.
I'm not disagreeing on that. I'd walk around in a muumuu all day.
Oh yeah, me too. On July 6th, 1978, he predicted the end of the world would happen on February 17th, which that's my sister-in-law's birthday, but in 1979. The group set out on foot into the hills from the village of St. Jacques on July 9th, 1978. They hiked for 2 days until they found an isolated hill beside a small body of water called Loch Sec, which means dry lake. Roch named the diminutive mound Eternal Mountain, and it was here that the group made their home. They erected a tent town, spent a week retrieving tools from the cars, and then began construction on a large communal cabin.
So clearly the end of the world didn't happen because we're here.
Well, no, it hasn't hit February 17th.
I'm just saying.
Oh,
we're here
today. Yeah,
we're here. So obviously it didn't happen, guys. We're safe.
Yeah.
For now.
Yeah, well, it was supposed to happen in 1979.
Yeah.
We'd be long gone by now.
We wouldn't have even existed.
No. They worked at least 17 hours a day, clearing the land and occasionally getting supplies from the village. Jacques Fissette and Claude hacked at the ground with a shovel and pickaxe where the center of the cabin would be, working all summer to dig a well. When they finally reached the water table, Roch declared it a miracle. They worked in their tunics, and when tripping over these became inconvenient and dangerous, Roch commissioned new uniforms. Dark blue wrap-around short shrifts. Roch rationed the food, and if anyone complained about anything like hunger, he would punish them by restricting their rations even further. So he's just a real dick.
Yeah.
Of course, Roch's stomach pains and cancer prevented him from participating in the labor. His role was much more important for their spiritual salvation, impressing upon his followers that everyone in the outside world, most especially their families, were active oppressors of the righteous, who were doomed to lie dead for all eternity for the unforgivable harm they had inflicted upon these poor innocent souls.
Okay.
For some, this was all too much. Yolande Gunnenbart, who had joined the group with her friend Gabrielle Lavallee at the resort at Lake Rousseau, headed back to France, claiming that her passport had expired. Leo Mark Fokker, who had joined the Healthy Living Clinic with his wife and child, and who had given Roch all of their money, loaded his meager possessions and his family into a wagon and headed back to civilization. Roch did nothing to stop them, but made it clear that Fokker was evil in the eyes of God. When it was all done in September, the cabin consisted of a single open room with a floor made of pounded wood and rounds and with the well in the center. A ceiling made of mossy, twiggy bark-covered logs, and rooms consisting only of meter-high partitions and bed sheets hung as curtains. This was to be their home until God began his 1,000-year reign on earth. It was also a place of merriment, where Roch would organize skits and songs. To commemorate their new life, Roch gave them all new names from the Old Testament. He himself became Moses, leader of the Exodus.
Of course he did.
From the depraved modern world. I'm going to continue referring to him as Roch, though, just because it's easier to keep it straight. He was their pappy. His wife Giselle was their mammy. And with the collective welfare checks of everyone in the group, they had a monthly budget of $1,400 Canadian. In October, the 6 months pregnant Giselle went to Roch. She said that the women who had not been married were lonely. Roch relayed this insight to the other girls, thus giving them the impression that Mammy had been the first to think of it. A few nights later, Nicole Raoul, whom Roch had married to the uninterested Jacques Fissette, confided that she and Roch had had intercourse while everyone else was working. This hurt Giselle naturally, and she fled from the cabin. But an enraged Roch pulled her down and squeezed his hands around her throat. Afraid for her life, Giselle agreed to return to the compound. Roch declared all commune marriages, other than the one between himself and Giselle, void. He then began marrying the women to himself.
Of course.
Including Gabrielle, the 20-year-old multiple sclerosis invalid, though apparently didn't try to have intercourse with her. He did, however, have sex with his other wives. The rebellious Solange was the last to fall to his wiles. The one exception was Maurice Grenier, the outsider, the one that was already married to Jacques. When the Jonestown massacre occurred on November 18th, 1978, Roch followed the story with keen interest. He even claimed to have had a vision of the event a year before. Or do you know what that is?
Mhm.
Yeah. So it was like a huge mass. They were saying mass suicide, but later they were saying it was suicide murder because a lot of them were forced to take, was it arsenic?
Arsenic in their Kool-Aid.
Yeah, arsenic. So over 900 people died because of this.
Because they drank the Kool-Aid, so don't drink the Kool-Aid, people.
Well, they were some of them were forced to ingest it.
I know,
or
but I'm just saying, if you have a choice,
Yeah.
A, don't join a cult. B, don't drink the Kool-Aid.
And wasn't it? It wasn't even Kool-Aid.
No,
it
it
was.
wasn't. I can't remember what it is, but
Yeah,
but
the
off-brand. Yeah, the offer. Whatever it was, everybody always says the Kool-Aid.
Kool-Aid.
Don't
yes.
drink the Kool-Aid.
Don't drink the Kool-Aid.
But it wasn't Kool-Aid. It was, I can't remember what it was.
Flavor-Aid?
So like Kool-Aid, but yeah.
Something like that.
Something like that, yeah. Yeah, I think it was Flavor-Aid. I don't know.
But they now had a very pressing problem. Doomsday cults were now a household concern, and the families of Roch's followers renewed their attempts to disband the group. The police wanted to take him into custody, but lacked evidence that he was a danger to himself or to the others. Nevertheless, Roch went willingly with them and underwent psychological evaluation. He claimed that he wasn't the leader of the group, that the commune was a democracy, and that they lived in peace and without any promiscuity. He conveniently left out the parts about food rationing, abuse, or his polygamous ways. The authorities knew he was out of his mind, but without any proof he was dangerous, they were forced to release him. Roch abandoned the Adventist diet. He began eating meat and junk food. This I understand too. I was raised Seventh-day Adventist, and we were vegetarian for a while growing up. And man, there is nothing like a medium rare steak. I could never go back. Could never go back. Although I really do enjoy vegetarian hot dogs. I bought them once for Robbie to try, and he was not a fan. He didn't like them.
Of what ones?
Vegetarian hot dogs.
Oh.
But these ones came in like a package, like a normal hot dog. And the one that I grew up with, they were actually in a can. They were good. They were good.
I don't eat meat from a can. I don't hardly eat meat
it's
anyway.
Not meat. It's vegetarian.
But meat, nothing like that
soy.
from a can.
I like them. They're nostalgic for me.
Do you still eat them?
I very, very rarely, because I'm the only one that would. Robbie doesn't like them, and I doubt it will.
And when would you eat them? Like on Sundays or Saturdays? I mean, all the time.
All the time. We were vegetarian. We didn't eat.
Oh,
meat.
you were vegetarian all the time.
Yeah.
I know that sometimes some Seventh-day Adventists don't eat pork and meat and stuff on a certain day.
No, they don't eat pork at all.
Well, yeah, I knew they don't eat pork, but like meat at all.
No, it's.
They're all vegetarian.
The majority of Seventh-day Adventists are vegetarian. If they're not vegetarian, they at least do not eat pork, shellfish, or bottom feeders like catfish.
Yeah,
because they're unclean.
I just thought they didn't eat. I knew they didn't eat pork at all, but I thought they didn't eat meat on like Fridays or Saturdays, something like that.
No.
I know Catholics during Lent.
During Lent, they don't. Yeah, they eat fish. That's
yeah.
it. Yeah.
I thought Seventh-day Adventists did the same thing, but on Saturday.
No.
Okay. You learn something new every day.
Yeah. Or at least how I was brought up, we didn't. I don't know if maybe other Seventh-day Adventists are different, but from what I know. Roch would then prostitute Gabrielle to a local grocer for some milk, meat, and cheese. He also started drinking again after 2 years of sobriety, first with a communion wine, then drinking beer, and finally moving his way up to cognac. He began to deliver long, rambling, drunken sermons, which I would think would be the best kind of sermon, really.
I mean, that would be fun.
It would be entertaining, at least. I'm sure his were scary, though, because he's nuts. If anyone fell asleep, he'd smack them in the head with a 4-inch thick club.
Oh, my God.
When Maurice Grenier while she was pregnant, ate 2 more pancakes than Roch had allotted her. He punched her in the side and broke 2 of her ribs. A favorite punishment of Roch's would be to force someone to strip naked and stand in the snow for a few hours. And no one would fight back because, that'd be raising a hand against God himself.
Because he's the Almighty.
Yeah, he's speaking for God. He is God's right-hand man. So Maurice Grenier began to talk about leaving. Roch instructed Jacques Giguère, her husband, in the eyes of the law, although in the eyes of the commune, since Roch had dissolved their marriage, he told him to cut off one of her toes with an axe as punishment. When Jacques balked and Roch began to taunt him, "What are you, a faggot? Don't you have any balls? If you want to be a man, you have to learn how to teach your woman a lesson." That's all a quote. When Jacques began to cry because he doesn't want to chop off his wife's toe,
Right.
Roch grabbed the axe and threatened to cut off all of her toes himself. Reluctantly, Jacques took the axe and severed one of Maurice's small toes. After that, Jacques became Roch's main enforcer. So now they're hurting one another. Like, he's manipulated them to cut off each other's toes. Like, this is crazy.
If you do something wrong.
This is crazy. The group changed its name to the Holy Moses Mountain Family and began to address Roch as Moses. On September 15th, 1978, all the members of HMMF were given the new biblical games to mark the new beginning. So Jacques Fissette left. Roch told the others he had been taken by the devil. As for the others, all of this served only to make them more obedient. They would write letters like this one. So this is one of the letters that was written by, I think, Solange? No, by Francine. This is a letter from Francine. "Hello, Pappy. I am writing about what you said on the subject of nutrition. It was very true that I nibble, a damnable fault, which I will never again repeat. The thought of ingesting such a large quantity of food in so little time discourages me, even if I work outside the entire day without eating. I ask that you forgive me. If it is stealing, I did not realize it. If it is this fault which causes my plumpness, I do not want to be a fat and plump servant. That is too ugly next to the man that you are. I don't know what to think about everything and the meaning of my actions. I only know that I will not repeat them, and I don't speak lightly. I wish to be a true servant to you, my master, alert, vigorous, with a clear and lively spirit, and well balanced to serve you every moment of my life. I have a long way to go. Thank you, Pappy. I love you, Hagla," which was Francine Laflamme's biblical name. By October, Roch was having sex with most of the women in the group and went ahead to dissolve the marriages he had originally performed. In November, the newspapers reported on the tragedy of Jonestown, leading journalists to start recognizing Roch's group, HMMF, as a cult. The first baby of the group was born on January 3rd, 1979, with Giselle and Roch being the parents. Shortly after that, on January 26th, Maurice Grenier gave birth to Jacques' son, Samuel Giguère. February 17th, 1979 came and passed without the end of the world happening. Roch rationalized the failed prophecy, stating that God's time works differently from human time. Chantal Labre's parents also requested she have another psychological examination done. On March 18th, the Sûreté Quebec, which is just like the French police, descended on HMMF with a court order for Chantal Labre, but were refused entry by Roch. Her poor parents are doing everything they can to try to save their daughter. They must have been terrified for her, especially after seeing Jonestown. Like, they're worried. And they're doing everything they can to try to help her, try to save her. On April 18th, after a radio interview with Roch in which he announced his prophecies, the police raided the HMMF commune to enforce the court order regarding Chantal Labre. They took Chantal to the hospital for psychiatric evaluation. Roch was then brought to trial on charges of obstructing justice. He was found guilty and given a suspended sentence. On April 27th, which is my brother's birthday, Roch returned to the commune. Chantal was found to be of sound mind again and also returned. In October, Gabrielle Nadeau, the multiple sclerosis patient, died despite of Roch's spiritual healing methods. From then to July or August of 1980, the commune became something of a tourist attraction. People were interested in seeing the Holy Moses Mountain family in their little log cabin, wearing their biblical-style tunics. They attracted 75 to 100 tourists a day. Some even decided to stay several nights to get the full experience. Don't you want to go stay?
Oh, no. Even if I did, I don't think I'd fall for that stuff. You know what I mean?
I'd be like, these people are nuts.
Yeah.
In early November 1980, Guy Veer joined the commune. He was the first new member of the group since the Healthy Living Clinic. He had undergone treatment for depression at the same hospital that had declared Roch mentally sound. After hearing about Roch on television, Guy decided to join the commune. After passing Gabrielle's examination, he was permitted to stay at the commune, but in the storage shed, away from Roch and his family. Guy would get a small wood-burning stove, a case of 24 bottles of home-brewed beer, 2 hens, a rooster, and 1 meal a day. Guy's job, in addition to his normal responsibilities of chopping wood, storing food rations for the winter, and continuing construction on Moses's growing wood cabin palace, would be to babysit the group's 3 non-Roch children: Samuel Gajir, age 2, Miriam Gajir, age 4, and Simon Aulette, age 2, who is the son of Solange and Claude during their brief marriage.
Isn't like wee? Isn't that O-U-E? Wouldn't that
maybe Willette? Willette? I don't know.
Because I know L-L in Spanish is a y.
Yeah, I know.
So maybe it's Willette.
Willette. Simon Willette. I don't know.
Willette.
I don't speak French. Oui.
I don't know. That just dawned on me.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Roch had 3 children of his own living at the commune, one by Giselle, one by Solange, and one by Nicole. But Guy was mentally unstable, and so he was only trusted to watch the children that were not Roch's blood. On March 23rd, 1981, Roch organized a party. His 2 sons from his marriage with Francine Grenier, Roch Jr., who is now 12, and Francois, who is 10, were coming to live with their father in the commune. Which, why would she allow that?
I was just going to say that. You know this dude is crazy.
Yeah, why? What mother would just do that?
Go live in a cult.
Like, I don't know what her circumstances are. It didn't say anywhere, but why? Why would you do that? You've had them for
12 years?
This long? Why would you send them to him?
Knowing how he is, what he's doing.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's crazy.
Guy, of course, was not invited. His job was to look over those 3 outsider children. Guy, of course, was not invited. His job was to look after those 3 outsider children. There are 2 versions regarding what happened that night. The official version is the one that was given in court by Roch, Guy Veer, and most of the commune members. According to this version, Samuel was crying that night and keeping Guy awake. Guy lost his temper and started screaming at the child to be quiet. Then, picking the 2-year-old up by the throat, he plunged his fist into the child's face 5 or 6 times. The next day, Roch discovered what had happened and placed Samuel under the care of Gabrielle, who was the nurse for the group, with no real medical training.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah. Allegedly, baby Samuel's head was flopping around on his neck, and his penis had swelled up. Roch took a pair of scissors, and after sterilizing them with alcohol, he lanced Samuel's penis to permit urine to flow out. The next morning, Samuel was found dead. This is the account accepted by the courts.
Wow.
According to Savage Messiah by Paul Kalla and Ross Laver, Giselle tells a different story. According to her, Samuel's face was bruised on the morning of the 24th of March, but there was nothing else wrong with him. However, Roch decided that the child needed to be circumcised. He used the 94% ethanol solution to do more than sterilize the razor. He also poured some into a rubber bulb, which he squeezed into Samuel's mouth for use as an anesthetic. This may have been enough to cause Samuel's death by alcohol poisoning.
So that's what had happened to his penis as they tried to circumcise him.
That's Giselle's story.
Okay. So we don't even know if that's true.
Yeah, we don't know which is the true story. The first story is what's legally what the courts accepted as his death. This is what Giselle said later. After hearing about her baby's death, Maurice Grenier just went back to work. At supper, Roch suggested they burn the baby's remains, because if they buried the remains, birds or bears might get into them. Maurice and Jacques Gregier agreed. Claude Willette did the honors. Then, life at the commune went back to normal, as though a precious little baby boy hadn't been murdered. For 6 months, everything went without a hitch at the commune, but one night in September, a drunken Roch became angry with Guy over something he did and decided that he should stand trial for killing Samuel in March. He appointed Jacques Gregier, the baby's father, to be the judge. Mammy, Giselle, would be the prosecution, Claude Willette, the lawyer for the defense, Gabrielle would act as coroner, and Roch's other 6 wives would act as a jury. The trial lasted 1 hour, and the verdict was unanimous. Not guilty by reason of insanity. But Roch was not satisfied with that decision, and a couple of hours later, he took Jacques aside and suggested that they castrate Guy. Jacques didn't like the idea, but Roch called another vote anyway. Of a jury of 10, including Roch Jr., only 3 voted against the new motion. Jacques Gregier, Maurice Grenier, and Giselle. Oh, those are the 3 that voted against it. So the mom and dad of the baby, and then Giselle, Roch's wife. Everyone else was now strongly in favor. Guy, who had stayed quiet through the whole evening, was obviously not excited about this notion, but Roch actually talked him into it.
Wow.
Who allows themselves to be talked into being castrated?
Right. Like, okay, sure. Wow.
Yeah. He claimed it would cure Guy's headaches, as well as the excessive masturbation that was causing Guy's respiratory difficulties.
I don't think that was respiratory difficulties. I just think he was having fun.
Oh, man. He explained that in the hierarchy of the group, Guy was a slave, and that if he underwent the castration, he would become a eunuch, which would be a step up. He asked him to write a letter of consent and said that he wouldn't make Guy sign it if he didn't want to sign it, but Guy signed it anyways. Roch had him lie on the kitchen table as Gabrielle fetched the medical instruments, an elastic band, a razor blade, a magnifying glass, a pair of tweezers, and the ethanol. The operation itself was painless. I don't believe that. And the testicles were discarded in a Kleenex. Although Guy's scrotum bled for a week, Gabrielle gave him a new salt water compress every 20 minutes and ensured he got plenty of iron in his diet. Guy never complained of another headache, oddly enough.
Well, no shit.
Got bigger problems now. So Roch felt that now Guy was a liability, and he enjoyed tormenting him, beating him, and playing games in which he would instruct his followers to pierce Guy through the chest with knives and bleed him to death, only to call them off like God called off Abraham from sacrificing Isaac at the very last minute. But on November 5th, Guy escaped to the village of Saint Jacques, where he told the villagers that a baby had died after being kicked by a horse.
Oh, so that's his version.
That's his story.
Okay.
The police raided the compound, arrested Roch and Samuel's parents, and relocated the 7 children to foster homes. They found the child's remains, and the commune members told the story of Guy's beating the child. They also found Guy's letter of consent for the castration operation, and even the ballots that had been used for the vote. No one questioned by the police was at all upset or even embarrassed of what had happened, or of having involved a 12-year-old boy in the decision process. After the coroner determined that the group was criminally responsible for the death of Samuel Gregier, the police made the following charges: Roch Theriault, Jacques Gregier, Maurice Grenier, Gabrielle Lavallée, and Guy Veer were all charged with criminal negligence causing bodily harm to Samuel Gregier. Claude Ouellet, who burned the body, was charged with obstruction to justice. Jacques and Maurice were charged with neglect towards their oldest daughter, now 5, and Claude and Solange Bolliard were similarly charged for the treatment of Simon Ouellet, now 3. Roch and Gabrielle were also charged with bodily harm with the intent to mutilate Guy Veer. All of the accused pleaded not guilty. Jacques, Maurice, Claude, Solange, and Guy Veer were released on their own recognizance on the condition they not return to the cabin. Roch and Gabrielle were denied bail as they were held to be a danger to society. At the end of the 9-month trial, during which the commune members moved to the town of New Carlisle, where the trial was held, all parties were found guilty of all charges. Maurice and Solange got 3 years probation. Jacques Gregier and Claude Ouellet received 6 months in prison and 3 years probation for child abandonment. Guy Veer was sentenced but later acquitted for mental incompetence and was returned to the hospital that he had met Roch in. And Gabrielle Lavallée was sentenced to 9 months in jail and 3 years probation.
Are you kidding me?
For the murder of a child.
For the murder of a child. They get a fucking slap on the hand.
Yeah.
Or wrist. Whatever that saying is.
A couple years.
Wow.
Couple years.
Jesus Christ.
The members of the group distributed themselves between 4 apartments in Quebec City to be near their leader while he finished his sentence. The police burned their cabin on the Gaspé to the ground and then bulldozed the ashes to make sure it was good and gone. Roch began to assemble notes for a book, L'Affaire Mosée, which is the Affairs of Moses, published in Quebec City in November of 1983. The whole thing seemed to be over, but Roch was just getting started. And you'll have to come back next week to hear the rest of the absolute horrors Roch put his followers through, because we have only scratched the surface of the insane happenings of this cult under the leadership of Roch Theriault.
Sorry, not sorry, guys.
I know it seems like
it should be over.
It should be over, but there's so much, and it gets so much worse. So much worse.
So part 2.
Part 2 next week. Come back. But that was a doozy.
Yeah, I mean, we're just scratching the surface, so really not much to discuss except for they fucking killed a child and got a slap on the wrist
and castrated a man.
And nobody really knows how the child died.
Yeah, not for sure. Either version is horrific.
This is giving me anxiety. Like, it's not okay. It's not okay. And he started a fucking cult because, he's fucking Jesus's God's right-hand man. Yeah. And only he knows what God wants because he's the only one that sees visions. All the others are imposters.
I don't know. I know. I'm so we got to record part 2 after this, so.
And my anxiety is, woo.
Yeah. But please come back next week for the conclusion. And please check us out on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. We're on all the things.
All the things.
You can submit your stories of...
We're still waiting, guys.
Hauntings, demon possession, witches in the matrix. Yeah. Having
intercourse with fairies.
Yep.
Like anything, you guys, anything.
If you have any murder cases you want us to look into, any serial killers you want us to look into.
Yeah, they don't have to be serial killers. It could just be any case that you guys are interested in. We'll research it. We'll
anything
cover
that's
it.
Strange or spooky or a little bit weird, we'll check it out.
Yeah. So you can go to our website, which is
www.spine-chillingchatspodcast.com.
You can submit it there.
Yep.
You can email us at
spinechillingchatspodcast@gmail.com. And there is no hyphen in spine chilling in that one.
Yep. So like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, buy merchandise.
Tell your neighbors, tell your
dogs. Jesus, I don't care.
Tell your kids, teachers, I don't care. Just
let them know it's R-rated though.
Yeah, it's not.
We don't want people being surprised when we drop the F-bomb.
Not safe for work unless you're, listening in a
headphones,
earpod.
Yeah. So, rated R for sure.
Yeah. So we hope you like this. We hope you come back, and most of all, we hope you keep it spooky. Bye, guys.
Bye.